Do you use hustle from the days of selling drugs in
Totally.
the coffee business?
Roasting coffee, right? And then you're over there, you're bagging it, you're weighing it out. You know, it's all kind of the same thing. I just figured like God doesn't waste anything. You know, like it was my jam before, and God just kind of pulls it around, and I end up doing this in life. Right?
It makes all things good.
Yeah.
So what am I drinking here?
You're drinking, it's called the Purple Haze. So
Okay.
it is a jasmine tea, butterfly pea flower, green tea, and local honey. And then we
Okay.
squeeze some lemons in there, and that makes it turn purple. It's like beautiful blue, like the bluest part on here. And as soon as we squeeze the lemons in it, it turns purple.
So it's like chemistry.
It's chemistry, yes.
Nice. So that's what you do here, actually.
That's what I do.
It's not really coffee.
It's not coffee. We
You're a
roast
chemist.
coffee. It's kind of chemistry. Yeah. I used to make meth a long time ago, and so it's kind of like along the same lines.
That's a heck of a way to start the podcast. Let's go. Let's go. We're up and running. Well, James Webb,
You
thanks
can
for
cut that.
sitting down. No, we're going to talk about that later.
Okay.
Thanks for, I mean, if you're game to.
I'm game, so.
But thanks for sitting down with me today.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about
Thrilled.
where we are.
Thanks
right
for
now.
having me. We're at Elite Coffee, and this is our Ward Village location. And it's just a beautiful little place that we took over in the middle of the pandemic, and there was no one walking the streets, and we decided either we're gonna look like fools or geniuses, and so we're somewhere in between.
So you got, did you get a kind of a deal on the place?
So we got a
Because
deal on the
commercial
place
real estate?
because nobody was willing to do anything when we made this deal.
So when they made the deal, did they make it for a certain number of years only because they anticipated the recovery?
Yes.
Okay.
So we had a 5-year lease, and I kind of looked at it. There was like 2 or 3 years, and then we could back out if they. So I kind of looked at it like if it wasn't working out, then we could back out during that time.
Got it.
So, but they're probably not going to break it down for another 2 more years. So it'll probably go to full term on our lease.
Wow.
But they actually really want us around, so they're asking us to stay, and they're looking to find relocate us.
Really?
Yeah.
So those are, I have heard that, you know, those are some of the folks that succeeded, people who are willing to take risks
Yeah.
during the pandemic, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like when the stock market's down, you
Yeah.
buy, right?
Right. Jump in.
Similar kind of thing.
Yeah.
Interesting. And so you have how many locations now?
So I have 4.
I knew the answer to that question
yeah.
clearly because I
Clearly.
like this.
Yeah, so I opened 2 during the pandemic.
Okay.
And I don't know if you consider, I just opened my 4th one just a month and a half ago, or actually probably 2 months now.
On Kauai.
On Kauai.
Nice.
Yeah.
And how's that going?
It's going pretty well. Like I wish it'd be a little better, but you know, I mean,
Right.
for a brand new opening, different island, you know, people don't know us as well.
Yeah.
It's going very well. So.
What was the genesis of all of this for you in terms of coffee? One thing I find interesting is talking to business owners, sometimes owners wanted to be business owners from the beginning, and sometimes they had a passion or a craft that they then created a business out of. Which one was it for you?
Yeah, I had no idea I was going to be a business owner at all.
Yeah.
I was kind of an entrepreneur before, in the wrong way, but I was an entrepreneur, and
Okay.
anyway, got myself in trouble. But anyway, just
What kind of trouble did you get into?
prison,
Okay.
you name it. So, yeah.
How did you get there?
So, born into amazing family. Ended up getting molested by 2 different men.
Okay.
One was for over 3 years. The guy was a family member, so it kept coming around. And then finally my parents, his parents were going through a divorce. He was about 18, maybe 19 at the time.
Yeah.
My parents let him live with us. So that moment I just was like, I can't trust my parents anymore because they let this guy live in our house. Even though they had no idea. If they had any idea, that would never happen, right?
Sure.
But I just kind of said, I can't trust you guys, and I can't trust anybody. So at 8 years old, I kind of cut off the world.
Wow.
And about 12 or 13, I woke up every night crying, and I was wondering why I was crying, didn't know. And finally, it all started flooding back to me, all the memories of everything, because I'd stuffed it. And all of a sudden, grades are going downhill. Everything's just kind of a mess, and I'm just trying to deal with life. And by the time I was 15, I was a meth addict. So.
So it was the addiction came out of just a way to cope.
Just trying to cope with the pain. I didn't know. I mean, I was drinking. I was doing all kinds of drugs just to medicate myself and trying to handle the pain because I didn't tell anybody about it. So I was just trying to fend this thing out on my own, which you should never do, right? As a little kid, you should get help.
Right.
So,
but if nobody's there to kind of guide you in that direction,
Yeah.
there's...
And I was embarrassed and ashamed, thinking it was my fault. Like you have all this stuff that goes through your head as a little kid. You don't know, right? So you like, is this my fault? Does something matter with me? I had all these crazy thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I was embarrassed. I didn't want to tell anybody that happened to me. So yeah, I just kind of went that way.
So how long did you continue to use drugs and stuff as a
So
coping mechanism?
till when I was 29.
Okay, so this was a long
Long time, yeah, 29.
Did you, I have a similar period in my life that did not last that long.
Yeah.
But looking back, I sometimes wonder, looking back now, I look at it and go, okay, I think there was always a part of me that wouldn't let myself hit rock bottom. I wasn't gonna die. I was always just on the edge. When you look back, was that true of you, or do you feel like there was something else kind of guiding and watching over you?
Oh, I've definitely had someone guiding and watching over me.
Yeah.
And my dad was a pastor, so I grew up
Okay.
in a pastor's home, and I'd seen God do miracles for our family all the time. And so I'd already known that there's something out there kind of guiding me. And I feel like each call, like God trying to get my attention, was a little louder, until the day that I basically had like a couple $100 a day meth habit. I was drinking a bottle of whiskey a day, and I was going out to bars and blowing $400 or $500 every night. That's just, that was my normal life. And I was trying to fill this hole with women, with drugs, with power, with whatever I thought, because I was selling drugs, trying to get, I was just trying to see how far I can, but it was super empty inside.
Right.
And so one day I tried to quit multiple times in rehabs, out of rehab, this kind of thing. Could never attempt quitting because I was so angry inside towards those guys who molested me.
Yeah.
And anyway, one day I was staring at this guy, and I was standing on this wall, and I said, God, I want to change. I don't know how. And about 1 week later, I was at Lily Howe Bakery doing a drug deal, and here come cars from every different directions, guys, guns drawn on me. Flying around the corners. Get on that ground, effing ground. And I was just like a dove for the ground. I just didn't want to get slammed by these big Hawaiian guys.
Right.
So, and I got arrested, went into the jail cell, and I got on my knees and I said, God, I want to change, but not like this. Anyway.
Right. Couldn't you have done something gentler?
Yeah, something a little easier. But I said, whatever you want me to do, I'll do. I tried it my way, it never worked. And I had no withdrawals from the couple $100 a day meth habit, which from 15 to 29 at that point.
No
alcohol.
withdrawals. You just went cold turkey.
Like in that jail cell, I had no withdrawals from any of the alcohol, and alcohol withdrawals will kill you. Meth, and no withdrawals from meth, nothing. Just instantly delivered from all of it.
Wow.
So super crazy. And so from that day, I have not touched drugs or alcohol, and that was in May it'll be 23 years since I've touched any drugs.
So from the moment that you're in the jail cell, you have not touched
I've
anything
not touched
since.
drugs or alcohol. Like literally, God took away, I had no withdrawals, took away everything, and I just instantly delivered from it.
That's an incredible story.
Super incredible.
Wow.
It doesn't happen, I tried to quit so many times in my life, but God radically just pulled me out.
Where were your parents at with this when you got? I imagine it was heartbreaking for them for 14 years for a variety of reasons, right? But when you came clean, did they believe you?
So they didn't even believe I was in jail. Like they bailed me out, and then they tried to help me. And so basically, my dad would spend time with me because I was so messed up in my thinking.
Yeah.
And my dad just tried to spend time with me. So he'd spend some time. My best friend and I would we wake up at 5 a.m. every morning, and he would just kind of help us and just kind of talk with us and pour the word of God into us and just kind of change, work on our hearts because we were just messed up. And anyway, then they put me in a class that really helped me get all the bitterness I had in. So I felt like I had so much hatred and bitterness towards these guys. I dreamt every day of shooting them in the face. Right. Is what, and if they lived in Hawaii, I don't know, who knows what happened, right? So they put me in this class and it helped me deal, and then they had a prayer meeting for me, and basically I forgave those people. It took months to get from here to here, but but I made a decision to forgive that day, and it took probably about 9 months before it actually dropped from my, this is the longest distance in the world, right? Between your mind and your heart. You
almost have to create it as a habit before it actually takes root and becomes real.
Yeah. So I mean, every day when I think about them, I'd be like, no, I chose to forgive them, and I'm gonna like just walk in that, and basically that's when 8 months later it came to fruition.
Right.
Yeah, and still every once in a while I got to check my heart, because I still like think about it and I get angry and I'm like, oh, I sense something in there, but the bitterness led to my drug addiction, led to all these things, right? That I was holding on to this and I couldn't let go, because I couldn't stop the drugs, because I always went back to it, because I just had that chain that kept pulling me back.
What else helped you to get it from your head, to get forgiveness and sounds like gratitude from your head to your heart?
Yeah, I mean, just my parents really accepting me, and like after all the crap I put them through in my life, for them to actually be there for me and help me, and I think eight months later I went to prison, so they had to walk me through that too. So I still got sentenced to 4 years and 3 months of prison, and had to go do that. You
had to suck that up.
Suck that up.
But I'm sober now. I'm good now. I promise.
But I honestly, right after that, we had that prayer meeting, and I basically cried like you couldn't even believe. Like it was like I felt like a 10,000 pound weight came off my shoulders when I chose to forgive those guys, and I cried like I never cried before, and it was just this deep thing that was in me that I had to release. So when I actually went to prison, which a couple months later, like I walked in there and I was freer than I ever been, and I was in prison, feeling freer than I ever been. The guys are like, "What's the matter with this guy? He's like smiles, I'm like really locked up, but I felt free inside. So there's a different freedom in here that I never felt before.
That's incredible. Yeah. Is there music playing inside?
It's outside.
It's outside. All right, that's fine. No, that's fine. It's actually okay for this kind of a thing, because usually when we're shooting something, we're cutting it up later. Yeah. And so you get these jumps in music, but this has one long run. It's like, we're just going to hear the same music whole time.
When you hear the whale sounds, that gets a little weirder. They actually have a whole thing with the whale sounds.
Really?
It's like, what? It's Ward. There's a speaker right by our sign right up there.
Got it. Well, we just got to finish before the whale sounds start. Wow. So you were sort of committed to it enough that even in prison, I mean, did prison help you to just stay sober too, do you think?
So I look at prison, I look at prison as like, hey man, that's one thing that I never want to go to again. Yeah. So it keeps me on the straight and narrow. Right. Not that I really felt like getting rid of the bitterness and unforgiveness really changed my life. Like that. Like I don't need drugs. I don't need alcohol anymore. Yeah. So, it's that really changed my life. But prison was a nice, like, you don't want to do that ever again.
I don't want to rabbit hole on this too much, but is prison what everybody thinks prison is? Or is it different?
I had never gotten in trouble before, so I was in a minimum security, so it's like pretty mellow, It wasn't crazy. There's a bunch of guys there, and it was a bunch of Hawaiians there. I got sent to the mainland. There's a bunch of Hawaiians there, so that was great. A bunch of Guamanians. The Guamanians stick with the Hawaiians. The American Indians stick with the Hawaiians, because they all feel like their land was stolen, not feel like their land was stolen. And so they all kind of hang out together, and if anything goes off, they all stick together.
So it is a little bit like...
Yeah, the black guys sit together, the white dudes sit together, the Mexicans, and there's different Mexican, there's the townies and I don't remember the names anymore, but it's because it's been a long time, right? But there's like the townies, and then there's the guys who's the country, and they all don't like each other either. So it's super interesting.
And this is in another state.
This is another state.
But it's all, that's fascinating. Where is that, Arizona?
I was up in, no. Oregon. So I was right outside of Portland.
Okay.
So,
Interesting.
sorry, it's been so long. I'm like actually jogging my brain to figure out where it's like, that's like a whole nother lifetime, you know?
Yeah. I knew Portland was a popular place for Hawaiians to go, but that's not quite the same thing.
No, not quite the same thing.
So when does coffee come into play?
So this is the interesting thing is, so when I was 12, I would save my pennies, and my friends and I, there was a place called Mac and Ernie's. It was in Alamoana, and I don't know if this is probably before your time.
Yeah, I've been here for 16 or 17 years.
Yeah, this is like before Liberty House. This is before. So
Okay.
This is a long time ago.
My wife might remember that place. Mia, do you remember?
I'm a little older than she is, so she's not going to remember it. My wife would have no idea.
I'm Windward side too.
Yeah.
We didn't even come over the mountain for like most of my childhood.
Right. If it wasn't at Windward Mall, then it didn't exist. Okay.
But this is before Windward Mall was even a thought. So I'm kind of old. Anyway, so they had this, it was like a Hawaiian Macy's or something, you know what I mean, Hawaiian version. And they had a little tiny coffee bar on the side. And so my friends and I, we'd save our pennies, and instead of buying kakimochi and crack seed and all that, like everybody, we'd save our pennies and go sip espresso at 12. So,
No kidding.
And we'd sit out there and we'd dream of opening our own coffee shop someday, and we'd
So
talk about it.
espresso was actually the first drug that you got
Yes, exactly.
into. Got it.
So-
It was a gateway drug.
It was a gateway drug for me, yes. So yeah, we ended up, we did that dream of opening a coffee shop. I never knew that after prison, after all this stuff, that really my life would turn, and I would end up. So how it started was, my wife had a better job, and we started having kids. And then I was like, I wonder what, I wanted to stay home because I want my whole paycheck to go to someone else raising my kids. I just couldn't see it.
Yeah.
And so I stayed home. I did valet at night. While my kids are sleeping, I was hustling. I was doing valet. I was like flipping cars. I was trying to sell farm equipment. I was doing all this stuff just to make our bills, right?
Sure.
And so the guy that I was selling cars with, he said, hey, if you want to, we can go half-half on a car and you can make a lot more money on it. And I was trying to save money so I could go half-half on the cars.
Okay.
These are old school Ferraris and all kind of like cool cars. We've done deals to get Panteras and like all these really cool cars.
So what do you mean by that? How does that work?
So I was just working with this guy, and
Yeah.
I was flipping them and selling them on eBay and selling them.
Got it. And so
All
he's
over the
like, do you want to just
Like,
sell
do you
the
want
car
to part
with me?
Yeah, if you go in
and we'll split
half
it.
with me, we buy the car together, and then we'll split the profits.
Got it. Okay.
So I was like, okay, so I was saving money. And then, so while I'm on Craigslist all the time back then, I'm trying to figure out how to buy more things and sell more things. And so I was like, I wonder what fresh coffee tastes like. And I end up looking, and there's a tiny little coffee roaster about this big, looks like a toaster oven. I still have it. It's in my downtown roastery.
Okay.
And so you can roast like 8 ounces maybe in there.
And you did this in your garage.
So I started in my garage, yeah, and I just started messing with it. I didn't even know where to buy beans from, so I went to Waialua and bought beans, and it was like $18 a pound green. And when you roast it, you lose 25%. So I'm thinking to myself, I can't even afford to drink this, like, what am I gonna do? But then I got introduced to somebody else, and then I started a relationship, started volunteering for this guy, and just kind of learned what I could.
Yeah.
And from there, I told my wife, hey, this idea started, I wanted to start a roastery and maybe just start roasting coffee, because I really started falling in love with it, just the science behind it and everything. So I just loved the thought of it, and I started getting better at what I was doing, right? And finding cheaper coffee to roast and that I could actually drink, and letting people try it and seeing how that went. So my wife just said, sure, just don't touch the family money. Like whatever you make from your job comes to the job, but your extra side hustle you can just use that. So I
put it back into the business.
Yeah. So I bought a coffee roaster and started roasting coffee in my garage. From there, started doing online sales, and had a friend who was opening a coffee cafe in Japan. So she started buying coffee for her Hawaiian cafe in Japan. So we just started, that was kind of my start in doing all that. Eventually met went to coffee roasting school in the mainland because I knew that I needed to get better at my craft. So I went up to the mainland, did that, came back, had one of my...
So wait, how did you pay for all this? Because your wife's like, don't touch the family finances. So did you have to make enough money to afford to send yourself to the mainland to get better at all this stuff?
I think we attached it on a family trip,
Okay.
So we kind of did a family trip, and she kind of came with me, and because I was starting, she was really seeing the potential, and I could make something out of myself with this, other than being a valet, right? And she's like, God, I hope my husband's not a valet his whole life. Nothing matter with valets. I love valets.
So did you get to write off the family trip then?
Yeah, part of it.
Nice.
So mine anyway. My part of it. So.
Nice.
And then from there we ended up meeting. Someone goes, hey man, I got a friend who wants to be doing what you're doing. He has that espresso machine right there in his living room, and he has grinders, and he has a coffee roaster he's never even used. And from there, it's like, well, let's talk story. He said sometimes you meet somebody and you guys can go further together.
Right.
So I was like, oh, okay, I'll try. We'll just talk, right, and see what happens.
Yeah.
So anyway, we ended up talking, and then from there we started doing some farmers markets and doing events and different things, and start to get some traction, and people started liking our brand. And
So you found a business partner.
Found a business partner.
What about that partnership worked well when you look back at it?
Yeah, I mean, just two hungry guys that he worked at the Moana, was bartender for a while, then switched to server because he got more shifts, and he was tired of that. I was tired. I don't want to do valet, and he grew up in coffee. His dad owned a coffee shop in San Francisco, so he was pulling shots at 12 years old. He could barely see over the bar, and he's working the bar, and so and the coffee shop's still in business in San Francisco today. His dad doesn't own it anymore, but someone else bought it and is running it now.
So he had a lot of experience, maybe more than you, in coffee.
In the coffee shop, but I had more roasting experience.
Got it. Yeah. So he knew the business of coffee to some degree.
Somewhat, yeah.
And you were more like, I know the science of coffee.
I mean, you could say that.
Something like that?
Yeah, pretty much like that. I understood coffee because I worked in coffee shop too growing up.
Yeah.
So we kind of knew a little bit, but not. I think we learned more as we opened up.
Yeah.
And got more into it, really.
I just think it's interesting to understand. It's hard to find a business partner.
Yes.
So to understand for people who are trying to start their own business or want someone else to help them, like what to look for in a partner, I think is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we didn't even start a partnership. We just worked together every Saturday.
Okay.
We just worked side by side, doing the farmers markets.
So it was never official.
We never made anything official. We just let's just try to see if we even can get along.
So that seems like a good way to do it, is to not jump in.
Yeah. I mean, signing papers when you don't even know each other, it's a marriage.
Right.
I mean, it's a marriage. You got a date, you got to do all this stuff, right? I mean, I see him more than I see my wife, just about. Right. So, for us, it was like, that was our dating, like every Saturday we were doing the farmer's market, and we'd talk story, and we'd start, until we finally found our first shop, and we opened. So
and that's where we're sitting right now.
This is not our first shop. Our first shop is in downtown.
Downtown, right. Which I was there last week, or a couple weeks ago. Yeah. Okay. That was your first shop. Okay. Yeah. And are you guys still working together?
Oh, totally, yeah.
Nice.
And we work really well together. We get along. We are similar so I think we see everything a lot the same way. So that helps a lot, right? Like if you kind of butt heads in all kind of areas. But
similar value system.
Similar value system. So I think that's huge. We kind of,
Yeah, when it comes to business partnerships, having a similar value system is maybe the most important thing, right?
I think so. Because otherwise, if you have the same value system, then you both believe that, like, treating each other the way you want to be treated. You want to take care of the other person. We both see it that way. We both want to take care of our employees. We both want to do the best for the employees that we have.
Sure.
Just so we keep them. We don't want to be training new people all the time.
Yeah.
That'd suck.
Yeah.
So
No, for sure. You don't want to have that level
and
of turnover.
especially in our this is basically like entry. A lot of times it's an entry level job, right? I mean, you have college students that want to just work for a little while,
Right.
that kind of thing.
So now that you have, or as you started your first shop, and now that you've opened some other shops, what was kind of the hardest thing along the way?
Man.
More than one, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, every time payroll hits and rent's due now, because I have 4 shops and a roastery, so I have 5 leases I got to take care of. I literally like crap my pants. Basically every payroll and every first of the month.
So as you scale to have more shops and more employees, it doesn't get easy. I think there's a feeling that it gets easier.
It's not easier at all.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe in another planet, another world, when the times aren't as hard as it is right now, but times are hard. I mean, like everyone's struggling.
Yeah.
So they say it costs an average family about $700 more a month with inflation. So we're actually, that slows down on people coming to eat. That slows down on people coming to drink coffee. They may drink it at home. They may buy a bag from us and then drink it at home
Right.
instead of coming to the coffee shop. So
Right.
we are seeing a slowdown in business. And so that does also affect everything. But yeah, it doesn't get easier as you get more stores.
How do you adjust when you see a slowdown like that in the coffee industry?
Yeah, I mean, because I never ever want to affect quality. Like we always want to have the best quality. I mean, and Yelp named us number 45 in the nation, like in a few years back.
Really?
Yeah. For food
Congratulations.
to eat, the places to eat.
Oh, places to eat.
Yeah. So we don't ever want to affect our quality of food.
Right.
But food is our highest cost, right? I mean, coffee has better margins than food, and then you have waste, and you have,
Yeah.
So coffee, we go through it so fast we don't waste it.
Well, I was going to ask you that, because I do look at the menu and there's so much more real food. I mean, you've got sandwiches, full breakfasts, like there are really full meals here.
Yeah.
What gave you the idea to do that? Because there's so many coffee shops, right? Is
Right,
that sort of a differentiator for you?
So when we opened downtown, there were a lot of coffee shops around us, and we just thought, so many times you go to a coffee shop and they have great coffee, but they have crappy food, or they don't have good, what I mean? And then you go to great food and they have really crappy coffee. And so we wanted to have a place where you can go and you can just kill 2 birds with 1 stone, right?
Right.
Like I'm gonna get fresh made food because all of our food is made fresh. There's no like pre-made anything. It's all made fresh. Every sandwich, everything, a salad is all made fresh when you order it.
And where are the ingredients sourced from too?
I mean, we do as much as we can. Yeah, I mean, we get it from, all the different places around. And
Right.
So, and we're not big enough to be able to like source from a farm. We're just trying to make
The costs.
Yeah, the cost goes like through the roof, and it's already through the roof. And
Yeah.
so,
But it's all fresh.
everything
great
is fresh.
ingredients.
Everything's great, fresh ingredients.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's super cool. As you scale, delegation,
Yeah.
one of the hardest things for me, right? Because you start this thing
Yeah.
with your bare hands, right? You build it from the ground up. And then when you delegate, you always run the risk of dropping off in whatever standard you've established for yourself. How do you approach that?
I mean, we really try and keep the highest standard, but at some point, if I don't, I can't. I gotta be able to delegate. I can't do it.
Right.
Period. Like there's, but literally, I mean, talking about delegating. Today, I was doing all the pickups for food, just because we were short somebody. So my driver was in here working. So my business partner and he went and did one shop. I did another shop.
Right.
So.
And I saw you packing beans earlier in a suitcase
Yeah, that's right.
for the Kauai store,
So
right?
tomorrow morning I'm flying out to Kauai, but it's cheaper for me to put all my coffee and breads, take it over there, or whatever they need, just take it over there in suitcases because I get 2 free bags in my corporate account versus like shipping it. So if I ship it, it's actually about the same price almost, but I need to go up there and check on everybody and see.
Yeah, you got to go for a visit anyway.
Exactly.
So that's as you kind of scale. What are some of the other difficulties with that?
Besides,
Getting bigger.
employees is always rough, especially in this environment now. I mean,
Just the turnover and because training costs money.
training costs money, and then for a little while we couldn't even get employees, so we were suffering. We actually had to shut down one of our downtown location for like a month and a half or something, just because we didn't have enough employees. So if I shut down this one or my Waikiki store, they would have our necks. So I had to pull employees from there to keep these ones open, and that affects cash flow. That affects everything, right? It just gets super difficult.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. We spoke about your value system, right?
yeah,
And that seems to be a really important thing for you.
very important.
As you are doing business, and it's like, okay, we're at least making money. There's a profit every month. Along the way, how do you what are some of those values that you're bringing to the business, and how do you keep those intact with everything else that's swirling around you?
Yeah, I mean, I always want to pay my bills. Like that's I mean,
You can't do that.
Even like a couple months ago, I mean, like actually January, I think we're significantly under, because our bills are way higher than what we brought in, and so I was like, oh man, how are we gonna do this? And was trying to just figure it out, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes you're at the point where it's like, okay, I gotta wait. I gotta call these guys. Can I pay you in like a week? I can't make the payment right now.
Right.
Do you mind? So it's just like trying to stay on top of everything, trying to pay your bills, because I don't like owing money at all. I don't. I want to pay my bills. I want to do everything correctly. I want to treat people the way I want to be treated. I said that's my
That's a big
second
one.
time. So show people. We want to respect people, right? I mean, I want to be respected. You want to be respected. We all. So I always want to pay.
Right.
And that's a big one. What else?
I mean, community seems to be.
Yeah. So our whole thing is creating community and connections one cup at a time. So that's something that I was trying to figure out. What are we about? What are we really? And I really want to open stores to create community. So many people are in front of their phone all day or in their computer, and we've lost the connections and we've lost the community. And so if I can provide spaces for people to be able to have community and connections over our coffee, that's the bottom line, what my partner and I really want to be able to do. And hopefully we can have more of these around the island where people can do this.
Do you see that playing out? Like, do you see little groups of people meeting at the same time
totally.
during the week?
Totally, yeah.
That must be like a quiet.
It's like,
Yeah.
inside, I love it. I mean, that's when I see people meeting and talking and people having first dates or whatever, coffee, I don't know, some coffee and bagel or some kind of like meetup thing. I think some app or something. It's kind of like, I don't know, whatever those other apps are. And so anyway, we see people and we're like, oh, I think that's one of those Tinder dates or whatever. And we love it. Like, I love it. It makes me happy to see people like getting together, or like even just friends meeting, and having coffee and some food and just enjoying time together.
Right.
Like, that's what makes me excited inside.
That's cool. All right, just nuts and bolts of things, because this is the stuff that I think a lot of people don't talk about. Are you an organized person? Really?
Not at all.
So how do you organize your week as a business owner?
I'm not really good at it. Yeah. I fly by the seat of my pants, and I've always flown by the seat of my pants.
I didn't expect you to say that.
I'm totally unorganized.
So what does that look like? Like, do you have a calendar for the week?
No.
Really?
No.
So you're just like prioritizing emergencies, or?
I'm probably doing everything wrong, but whatever.
But it's working.
Yeah. And I don't even set goals. I'm not like a goal setter. I'm not one of those kind of guys. Like, I think I have a vision for things, but I'm not like, these are my goals. I'm going to set it and I'm going to work my way backwards. And I'm just not that guy.
So if I asked you what your goal is for like 3 years from now, right now, what would your answer be?
I'm a couple more stores open.
So you do have a goal.
But I don't like set it
Right.
and work my way back. And I'm not like, hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that to get this place. And I'm going to.
You're just like, in the future, this is what I imagine things looking like.
Yeah.
And then you just work every day.
Yeah. And I'm looking around and I'm talking to people, and if something, and I'm praying, and if things happen, and I believe that prayer is one of the things that helps me get to where I am.
So you're just kind of walking it out daily in faith.
Yeah.
And working hard.
Yep.
I guess that's a way to organize your week.
Yeah, so I'm not organized at all. I should be a little bit. My wife is so organized, it's ridiculous. And I make her crazy.
My wife's kind of the same way. She's always putting things on calendars.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I don't need everything on the calendar. But then I will reference the calendar and actually utilize
I do too. We have like a whole wall with every month. And it's all this stuff written all over it at home. And I go in like...
Just pick and choose.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about family and your wife? You know, speaking of your wife, you know, work-life balance is something that gets talked about a lot. How do you do that?
Yeah, that's important to me. I love that we are a coffee shop because I finish work at an early time.
I didn't think about that.
So that to me is great. Like I start really early in the morning. I'm gone at 4 something in the morning. I go work out at my first class. My workout class is at 5 a.m. and I pretty much Monday through Friday, actually Sunday through Friday, do that.
Sounds like a weekly schedule to me.
But that's if I don't work out then and I don't do my cold plunge and my sauna, that's like my jam, and then I'm good.
Let's keep you going. Yeah. And then the shops all close at 1 or 2.
We all close. That last one closes at 2. So by then I can go pick up my kids.
Unless you're doing a podcast.
Unless I'm doing a podcast, but it's spring break. So
right. That's true. So you have the evenings, late afternoons and evenings, and then what time do you go to bed?
I go to bed at like 9. I go to bed early because I wake up at like 3.
I can't do that. My wife goes to bed at like 8:30. And I'm up till
so my wife
11.
used to, and then I would stay up really late, and then I'd wake up really early, and I'd be grouchy all the time.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm tired of being grouchy, so I started going to sleep when she goes to sleep, and I wake up really early because I can't sleep, and that's my time. Because otherwise, you know, you get home and it's like the kids are all over there and there's like everything's going on around the house and you're trying to like, hey, make sure you do your homework, you know, you're all like, you know, basically.
Right.
And so I wake up early because I need my time and I need to spend some time. I spend up praying, meditating.
Yeah.
That's how I try and start my every day.
So exercise, prayer, meditation, not necessarily in that order, but that's your time, and then you go into the workday, and then family time is like afternoons and evenings.
Yeah. And basically, I'm an Uber driver after 3. You know, after 2:30, I'm 3. Right. I'm an Uber driver to this sport, to that thing, to the
yeah, we're in the same boat.
Yeah.
Everybody has to go all over the island. And nothing's in one place.
Oh, yeah, nothing's in one place.
It's always all over the place.
I go to Halava for volleyball. I go to Kailua for soccer.
Right.
So.
Do you have any ideas? Did you have any ideas about the business that you thought would work? Like, this is the way it's going to be, and this is how it's going to look, and this is how it's going to sort of, that did not work that way at all.
So when I was trying to, like, my first idea that I wanted, before I met my partner, my business partner, I wanted to open just a pour over, because I love pour overs. Like, to me, that's just nothing better than a great pour over coffee. Yeah. And so
what is a pour over?
So a pour over is basically like either you have a glass carafe and you put a paper filter in it, you grind your beans, and you just slowly pour your water. It's basically just a drip coffee, right? You're pouring hot water over it. If you pull it out at 4 minutes, because otherwise it starts affecting the flavor. It gets a little kind of muted flavors. So anyway, I wanted to open a shop with pour overs, and my cousin tells me, "How are you gonna make money?" I was like, because it takes like a lot of time to make every pour over, right?
Yeah.
And you can't charge that much for them. So,
right.
And how many people actually really want a pour over? Most people are like, want Starbucks basically open a door for cream and sugar, and so that's what most people want.
So there's a sticker behind you that says,
yeah.
What does it say? Friends don't let friends drink Starbucks.
That's right.
So why? I'm getting all serious about it. It's a joke.
But one of my friends, she's given me multiples of those, so we just put them in our shop. We think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
So I'll explain to you a little bit about roasting coffee. So
I knew you'd be into the science of this.
So
let's go.
Yeah, this is just the best way I've come up with to explain to people. So Starbucks burns all their coffee.
Okay.
It's just burnt. Like, they can buy crappy beans and they can burn cheap and they can burn it, and you can't tell the difference.
So they buy cheap. They source cheap.
I don't know if they do or not, but
I'm not holding
can.
you to the right.
Yeah.
But a lot of times the problem is they might be buying cheap beans, and then when they roast the beans, what is the benefit of burning the coffee? Is it just they don't have to pay attention?
I believe they're in the cream and sugar, because you know how people like oh, I like my coffee this color, right? It's like they want to put the right amount of cream so it's this color,
right,
you know, like.
Right.
But I mean, if you have a really good pour over, and like you have some really good coffee, I can make some for you sometime. Like, you don't need cream, you don't need sugar. It has a sweetness. It has amazing flavors. It's like wine. Like, you can try. It has blueberries, and it has floral notes, and it has chocolate notes, and it has all these amazing flavors that you can try when you try different coffees.
Okay.
And so, the best way to put it is, like, you can have a Japanese white bread, right? You can have a French sourdough. You can have a wheat bread, maybe a rye, and there's just all different kinds of breads you can have out there. You toast them perfectly, you put some butter on it, and they all taste amazing. They all have a different flavor. It's all bread, and they all have different flavors that taste amazing. Mm-hmm. But if I put it in my toaster and I turn it all the way up as high as I can and I burn it, they all taste the same.
It takes away all
takes
of the
away
subtlety.
any of the subtle flavors, the amazing flavors that each. I mean, Ka'u and Kona they're two different places on the Big Island, but their coffees are completely different. I mean, they're amazing coffees, all in their own. I prefer Ka'u, but you know, I mean.
But if you're mass producing coffee, then you can just hire whoever you want, because they don't have to have a level of quality in the way that they're necessarily like roasting each of the beans or right. They can just burn everything.
They can.
And then pour sugar.
I think that they probably have some science behind what they do.
Sure.
They're a big company.
But not even just to talk about Starbucks, but just that's what you're saying. It's easier
to burn it all.
Yeah. It's easier to burn.
And then because every bean you roast it a tiny bit different, because you're pulling out the best flavor from every bean.
Right.
Even like our house coffee is a Brazil and Guatemalan, but we roast them separately. We roast them to pull out the sweetness from every single roast. And I want the exact flavors to come out of these different beans when they blend it together. It tastes amazing.
Oh man, you're making me want some coffee. Which will be a problem if I drink it at 4 p.m.
Yeah. The more shops I open, the less coffee I drink.
Really?
Yeah.
So do you drink coffee in the morning still?
I drink. Oh yeah.
So you just have like a little bit in the morning?
No, I have about 3 cups in the morning.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And then after that, I don't have any more.
What's your cutoff time?
I usually do it by 8, 9, and I'm done. Yeah.
Then you're good.
Because I wake up early, right? And so I have a cup first thing in the morning, and then I have my quiet time, my just me time, and then I go to the gym, and then I have another couple cups after that.
Nice. Never get tired of coffee.
Oh, never. I mean, coffee's amazing.
Yeah.
It has lots of amazing flavors that you can pull. So.
Do you use some of the sort of like hustle from the days of selling drugs in the coffee business? Do you find yourself thinking about it sometimes? Like, damn, I'm basically just...
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's funny because I'm roasting coffee, right? And then you're over there, you're bagging it, you're weighing it out. It's all kind of the same thing. I just figured like God doesn't waste anything, like it was my jam before, and God just kind of pulls it around, and I end up doing this in life, right?
He makes all things good. So he, that's really funny, actually. Excuse me. I was mentioning this to you before. What does the end look like for you? What the end of your career? Like, I think in business, a lot of times it's referred to as the exit strategy, right? Yeah. But more than that, just like, what is all this for?
Yeah.
Why are you doing all this? It's a lot of hard work. You're supporting your family, but what does it look like in the end? What do you want when you picture, the end of your career, the end of your life, like, what's the goal?
Yeah, I mean, what I really see is maybe 8 on Oahu, 8 elite coffees on Oahu, maybe 1 on Maui, 1 on Big Island. I already got 1 on Kauai. Yeah. Maybe a couple in Japan, and that's kind of what I see. Maybe 1 in Vegas. So that's just kind of like that's what I
Right next to
see
the
where
ABC
see us going. Yeah, see us going as a company,
Yeah.
and eventually want to see my daughter, when maybe my business partner's daughter, running the company. You know.
So you feel like
someday-
your legacy, you really want to pass on
I want to pass it on. Yeah,
to your kids.
for sure. For sure, I want to see us bottling cold brew, having it in stores. I want to see us like that's kind of the next step, which I'm hoping to do very soon, actually.
Yeah?
So yeah,
That's the next.
get the King and the cold brew in stores. Maybe the Purple Haze. So
that King cold brew is amazing.
yeah.
That's the one right there.
Yeah. So
If anybody comes down to Lee Coffee and you want to try a new coffee, the King cold brew is the one.
yeah, and then you
Is
can
that your
just
most popular one?
you can ask. I mean, our cold brews probably beats the King, but King is like really close second.
Yeah.
So, but you can just ask the barista for a sample. They'll
Nice.
give you a sample.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, because
really
we have it
tasty.
all on tap. So the King, the Purple Haze, the cold brew, the Nitro is all on tap. So you can just go and they can just pull you a shot and you can try it.
Nice. Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for taking the time today.
Oh, happy.
It was super fun. Maybe we'll do it again on Kauai.
Okay, sounds good. Let's do it.
Appreciate your time.
All right, brother. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.